Hey there, everyone. Meteorologist Ryan Weekman for our Sunday night weather hangout for March 8th for us here. Hard to believe we're already over a week into the month of March for us here. And thank you very much for joining me as we continue through what is the biggest warm up of the year so far. Temperatures this weekend have hit 40 degrees and 39 degrees, respectively, for our Saturday and Sunday. And that slow drip out there of that snow melting, an unmistakable sign that spring is just around the corner, and especially when you look at our 7-day forecast, looking pretty good for us as well. We've got a pretty good setup for us for some warmer temperatures, especially as we get Tuesday into Wednesday this week. Looks like we'll crack 50 degrees for the first time for 2015. And the overall weather setup, it's pretty quiet for us as well for much of the week. We have some rain chances in the latter half, especially Friday and Saturday of this week. But as far as any heavy rainfall goes, doesn't look very likely. It's almost a best case scenario for us for those area rivers and for Lake Erie as well, as far as that snow melt and ice melt will go for us. We'll continue to see that decreasing across the area for the week ahead. And a little concerned a couple weeks ago when we were looking at how much ice was on the rivers, how much snow was on the ground, that we might be looking at a pretty bad flooding potential for this year. But it looks like, at least for the next week or 10 days or so, we're going to avoid any heavy rains. And that certainly is some very good news, especially for those of you that live along the river or have any interests along the river as well. So looks like we may just sneak by this year without any major flooding, at least through mid-March. We'll continue to watch things for you. Let's flip the screen around, show you what we're looking at. We'll give you the nerdy version of what's going on in the weather for you for your Sunday night weather hangout. If you haven't tuned in before, basically what I like to do is give you an overall impression of what's going on across the country. And, well, right now we've got a strong area of low pressure, a trough that's digging from the Four Corners region into Texas. It's scooting up a whole bunch of moisture across the Lone Star State into Arkansas, Louisiana, and the Deep South. For us, a lot of that moisture is getting shunted south of the Ohio River. So we're in the northern stream of this energy. The southern stream down there across the Deep South, that's where all the moisture is. For us, it's a lot drier. And you can see that when you look at radar. Look at that across Dallas, just north of New Orleans, all the way through Montgomery and through Mississippi as well. Some good rainfall for us. I got to check myself. I'm so used to saying snowfall after this winter. This is, of course, all in the form of rain. You may notice across the Great Lakes here, we do have some rain showers showing up on radar, but none of this is reaching the ground for us. Just checked all the observation stations and looked at the latest soundings. And a big reason why we're seeing that showing up across northern Indiana and northwest Ohio is simply because of some forcing in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. But down here near the surface, still very dry. I don't think we're going to see any rainfall out of this one. So a dry evening expected for tonight. And the main theme for our forecast and the focus is going to be on that warm-up that has already really arrived and only enhances itself as we head into midweek. Again, a good chance we reach 50 degrees for the first time of this young year for us. That's the latest with the radar right now. Latest with the temperatures continue to show the Great Lakes and especially the Northeast. That's where the coolest values are, but we're now starting to get some warmer surface. That snowpack continues to creep northward as we continue to see the snowpack decreasing. It'll increase our chances here across northwest Ohio and southeastern Michigan for warm-ups not only to happen, but to be a little bit easier to happen as well. So that snow on the ground, especially at night, leads to colder evenings. But for now, I think we'll see that snowpack really be gone across the area by the end of this week for us ahead. So a pretty positive looking week for us as far as temperatures go. Here's the latest with our 7-day forecast. Just looked at this one if you were tuned into WTOL News at 6, although it was at 6:30 after the Ohio State basketball game. We're looking at 40s on the way for your Monday with partly cloudy skies. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a good chance we get to 50 on those days for us. And there's those rain chances that we've scooted into the forecast. We've had those in, bumped up slightly the rain chances for Friday because it looks like there's a good shot for some showers. But as far as any heavy rainfall goes, that doesn't look likely here across the southern Great Lakes, but more likely across the Tennessee and southern Ohio river valleys. Here's the latest thinking from the WPC, which shows some spots over 2 to 4 inches of snow there, or 2 to 4 inches of rainfall there. Told you, it's a bad habit to break across Texas and the deep south. But for us, we're on the northern fringes with more likely less than an inch and realistically less than a half inch of rainfall as we go over the next 7 days for us. So certainly some good news as far as hydro issues go for the area rivers. Doesn't look like we'll see significant flooding, at least in the near term for us, and hopefully we can get that ice out of the way and we'll free up those rivers. And then any heavy rainfall later on in the spring, of course, many of our rivers do a pretty good job at handling if it's not too extreme out there, especially the Maumee River can typically handle any spring heavy rainfall for us. It's when we get those ice jams out there that we typically run into more problems for us. So looking pretty good as far as any rainfall goes for us Thursday, Friday onward. Only had a lone question submitted for us, and I don't blame it. Only being one question this week with how nice the weather is out there. This will be a pretty abbreviated Sunday night weather hangout. But question came in from Shane, was asking, what are the chances for any severe weather? And asked over a pretty long time range. Shane was asking for the next 2 months and kind of comparing it to last year with how cool the spring was. And Shane, you're right. The threat for severe weather is pretty low, especially over the next week for us here. But the way that the snowpack is melting and the way that we're going to get some good March sunshine in here, we're really going to see the ice on Lake Erie melting, and it's going to take us out of this funk of a really cold February and set us up pretty near normal, I think, once we get into the mid part of April and especially into May. So I wouldn't go so far as to say that the severe weather threat is over for the next 2 months. It may be pretty low, especially for the next 2 to 3 weeks for us as we really get out of winter. But as far as any threat for severe weather over the next 2 months, it's something that we'll have to watch closely, simply because we'll have to watch as moisture return will be more possible with the lack of snowpack. There's no immediate signs that we're going to return to a northwest flow or a cooler pattern. So I wouldn't exactly count out the threat for severe weather to begin to ramp up as we head April into May, especially across the more favorable regions in the Deep South and Tornado Alley for us. Of course, we'll have to take it on a case-by-case basis, but there's nothing that's popping up right now. So certainly a very good sign that we're not seeing any severe weather yet for this year. So I know that a lot of folks are out enjoying the extra hour of daylight in the evening hours for tonight. Of course, we have roughly the same amount of daylight today, just kind of shifted on our time scale. So we'll leave it here for our Sunday night weather hangout. Hope you guys have a great week ahead. I'm sure we'll see you. Of course, you can always follow for the latest updates over on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll see you tonight at 10 on Fox and 11 over on WTOL. Have a great evening.